Okay, today we are asking the question, what is consciousness? And one of our modern day philosophers, David Chalmers, called this the hard problem. What is consciousness? And the way he comes at it, and the way the people that are dealing with this question come at it, is what is being? What are we? How do we become conscious? What is our consciousness? What is our being? And the question they ask is, does it arise from the brain or does it arise in some other way? And that's not what we're talking about today, but that's to show you or just to point out that there are a lot of meanings, a lot of definitions for the idea of consciousness. We're not going to deal with it as our being. We're going to deal with it in a slightly different way. And to give sort of an idea, I quoted Meister Eckhart last week, and I ran across this quote as well, which I love. He says, "The soul does not grow by addition, but by subtraction." So we normally think of spiritual growth as adding something to our collection of ideas. We read books, we listen to lectures, we try to bring in information so we'll know more about who we are, and that is tied into the whole idea of soul evolution. That when our thinking becomes tuned in to what is true of us at the deepest level, and what Eckhart is saying here is we don't grow by bringing new information in. We grow by letting it go, letting stuff go. So what would this stuff be? You know, that's the next question. That's where we're going to focus today. And that is ideas, it's beliefs. So when we're talking about consciousness, excuse me, in this sense, we're talking about our belief system. And it's not something that you can just sit on the table and say, okay, I've got this figured out. You know, it's a way to think about what we're talking about when we say the word consciousness. Because again, there's many different ways to think of it. To be conscious means to have a subjective awareness of oneself and the surrounding environment. That's just normal consciousness. It involves being awake, alert, and perceptive of one's thoughts, feelings, sensations, and experiences. If you've undergone surgery, then you understand that the anesthesiologist's job is to render you unconscious. Hopefully, all bodily sensations are put on hold. I've only had that done once when I had hernia surgery a couple of years ago, and it was kind of nice. You know, you just don't know, you're so unconscious, you don't know anything about what's going on, and whatever time passes, you're not even aware of it. How many of you have been rendered unconscious in that way? And how many of you have woken back up? Only one of you raised your hands. It's a pretty amazing technology, but we understand that side of it. We're conscious. We're here in this room together. We've had several experiences already this morning together, so we're conscious of what's going on. We're aware. If you passed out, you know, in the same time frame, you'd be unconscious, so you wouldn't know. So that's a very elemental level of understanding of what we're talking about when we're talking of consciousness. When we talk about developing a consciousness of prosperity, healing, or improved self-esteem, we're talking about changing our mindset. So we're talking about being conscious in a different way, being conscious of how we are responding to ideas and to conditions in life and all of the things that we are confronted with, because we are coming from really a self-image, from how we define ourselves. We respond to life in this way by that sum total of ideas that we carry around. And we don't really think about it this way so much. But when we talk about changing consciousness, we're talking about changing our ideas, and it's more than just beliefs. It's convictions. It's a deeper level that we carry around, because you can try to be positive because you have heard that if you're positive, your life will get better. You can try to think positive. You can try to react to situations positively, but still on a deeper level be reacting in the same old way, that you are fearful, but you're trying to be positive. Have you ever been around someone who is always trying to be positive and trying to say the right things, and it's a little bit wearing when you're with them? And I don't begrudge anybody of that, because it's a step in the right direction for sure. But you can try to be positive, a positive thinker, but your consciousness is not there yet. And you are doing the right things, saying the right things, thinking the right things on one level, but on the gut level, you're still reacting. And so you have a consciousness, we would say, of the old self, of the old reactionary self. And to get that out, that's what's important. That resides in the subconscious level, the storehouse. That's where the old self, the old perceptions that we are, live. And we don't just regurgitate them all at once. You know, it takes quite a while of watching how we behave and how we react. But this is what we're talking about in terms of consciousness. It's the sum total of our beliefs, but it's not just beliefs. Because I could ask you, do you believe that God is within you? And you would say yes, and the next moment you have some thing that you're going to pray about, and you shoot your attention up to the sky, where I need God to come down and help me with this problem. And we may not even know we're doing that. But whatever the dominating reaction is that we have, that's where our consciousness is. I pointed out before, it's like driving a car. When you first start driving, you are very aware of everything that you're doing, and do it very carefully and almost overdo it, you know, when we learn. This is true with driving a car or anything else. But after you do it for a while, you don't think about driving the car. You think about where you're going to go. You think about something beyond that. So we would say then you have a consciousness for driving. You have accepted that as part of your being. And you don't think about, you know, you're walking out to your car, how am I going to do this? You know, I'm nervous about driving this car and whatever. You think about where you're going to go. And if you're like Diane, you wake up in the morning and you don't go anywhere. It's, you know, your whole consciousness is ready to go. No problems, you know, in terms of getting in the car and turning it on, but it doesn't say hi, you know, it doesn't respond to you. And mine did that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I had to go get another battery, so you're probably destined to get another battery. But you understand what I'm saying. When you develop a consciousness for something, you can do it like we call it second nature. But it's not really second nature. You learned it. It's a behavior you learn. It's a mindset. You have accepted the fact that you are now a driver. And so much so that it's not even part of your vocabulary. It's just part of your consciousness. So that's what we are after when we work toward this idea of prosperity and healing and anything in the outer harmony and human relations and all of that. It's to get to the point where we do it without thinking about it. Like we don't think, you know, I shouldn't think this negative thought because it'll interrupt my prosperity. We stop thinking about it and just do it. You know, we get where we don't respond in the old way. That's when we know we have a consciousness for it. Changing from a consciousness of lack to a consciousness of abundance and an expectation of greater good involves a change in beliefs, self-image, the type of language we use, and our level of expectation. So I don't like the word belief but I don't know a better word to use, because when we think of belief, we think, do you believe in God? Do you believe, in this or that? A belief you can have, but not necessarily behave according to that belief, if you know what I mean. And, a lot of people that claim to be Christians, there's criticism level toward them, because they'd say, well, the Christian's not supposed to act that way. We're supposed to love everybody, and all that. And we see that's not true of any person, any group of people, that nobody really lives up to the labels that are put on us. And the reason is because of our consciousness, where that is. You can join a church and still keep your same consciousness, and just pretend like you got another one. And it's just kind of, it's a personal thing. It's not a judgmental thing. I'm not here to say, you're not convincing anybody of anything. We live with ourselves. We're the ones doing the driving. We're the ones that are living this life. And so I know when I know what I believe, I know that I think of God not as an old man in the sky, but as a universal energy in which I live and move and have my being. But my consciousness still is anchored somewhat in that idea of separation, that God is this old man in the sky that will come and help me when I need it. And I don't think that way, consciously out loud, but it's the reaction. It's like suddenly you feel like you're confronted with something you don't know how to handle, so you call upon a power greater than yourself, and that is probably a power outside of yourself. And the key there is to know when we're doing that, and to know why we're doing it, and to ask, do I really want to be healed? Do I want to move out of this type of reaction? Where is my belief system? And just to get in touch with that, because you can't escape your consciousness. You can't escape what you hold in your mind and you act according to at all times. It's our whole belief system sets up a vibe, a kind of harmonic resonance that manifests as an environmental equivalent. So that it's easier to see that in other people than it is in ourselves. We all know people that behave in ways that, their life is drama queens, whatever. And you say to yourself, what do you expect? You see how they behave and talk and see the things that seem to interest them, and they seem to be maybe a little too interested in conflict or stirring the pot, whatever. So when you're looking at somebody else, it's sometimes pretty easy to see how their outside life, their outer life is as it is, because you see their behavior. We don't always see that in ourselves, which probably is why Jesus said, get the log out of your own eye first before you start working on somebody else. And the reason that's true is because, say you do fix somebody else, you're still got your own stuff. You still have your consciousness. You're still carrying it around. It's I think I've used the illustration before, like if you have a bag, a big sack, and it's full of stuff, and you've got to lug this bag around. Meister Eckhart says the way to advance your soul is to start taking stuff out of your bag and throwing it away. But what we do is say, I don't know how to deal with this, so I need some more stuff. We put some more stuff in the bag, and the bag just keeps getting heavier, and we don't know exactly why it does. But taking the log out of our own eye is say, I think I'll just let this bag go, just drop it. And of course we can't just do that immediately, because that bag has got, it's just like cleaning out your garage. You come across stuff and you say, I wonder if I'd ever use that. I haven't used it for 35 years, but you never know. And we have a lot of that stuff in our bag that you just never know when you're going to have to get angry at somebody, or, have to set somebody straight. So we're going to keep that option open. And we don't think these things out like that, but it is very much like our house, and what we keep. And I tend to have a lot of clutter around me when I'm working on my book or something. I'll have a stack of 10 books on the floor next to me. Pretty soon I have to watch where I'm walking so I can just get out, of either get in or get out. It's like entering an airplane cockpit or something. But as soon as I put them away, I need the book I just put away, so I don't do that. Well, that's what we do. I hang on to it because I might need it. So it comes down to what is the I that might need that. And I'm not speaking of books here. I'm speaking of ideas. What is the me that might need this protective cover or might need this way to respond or whatever we're hanging on to? But I do believe it's true that our external life, it vibrates according to our consciousness. Our consciousness sets up a vibration that sets in motion a physical material life that is unique to each one of us. So I think we should all make that connection and be conscious of that connection. Are we hot in here? If we need to crank up the air a little bit, we can. So just so you know, it's a button. You just push. Bev, you know how to do it. Okay. The primary focus of Jesus was not on the afterlife, salvation, religious conversion, the end times, social reform, or any of the causes normally attributed to him. It took me a while to figure that out, that he really rarely talked about the afterlife. I talk about it a lot because of the near-death research, but I don't talk about it to try to help everybody get there, get into heaven, because I think that's our natural estate. When we step out of this body, we will have this incredible experience. I don't know if he knew that or not, but the average Jew of his day did not focus on the afterlife. They focused on living and staying in good standing with God, which is a pretty good idea. But his primary focus was none of these things. This is all the religious conversion, the end times, social reform. All of this were the concerns of the early Christian movement and have been ever since, that were focused more on the outer. But Jesus pointed to several things. He said, your faith has made you whole. Say to this mountain, be cast into the sea. Do not doubt in your heart. Ask, seek, and knock. Be persistent. It's not what goes into your mouth, but what comes out that has the greatest impact. All things are possible for one who believes. Every one of these statements, and there are a lot more than this, are centered around consciousness. How you observe your own thinking patterns and your own belief system. All of these have to do with what is going on inside, not what's going on outside. These things relate to consciousness. He was teaching people that there's a connection between the inside, the consciousness, and the outside, one's life. We all know this. We've heard it a million times. It's the awareness of it that we have to be conscious of, become conscious of. How am I responding? Why am I responding this way? What is going on? What is the inner reaction that's going on? And do I need this? As Meister Eckhart says, is it time to let something go? So does this mean that we draw difficult circumstances because of the kinds of beliefs we hold in our consciousness? Most of the people in Jesus' audience were poor, struggling through a hand-to-mouth experience. So there's no evidence that I have ever read where he said, you're poor and it's your fault. That's your consciousness. What I do hear him saying is, the whole list of things I just read is, okay, you are here, you're a poor fisherman, you're a poor farmer, you're a poor whatever. You get up every day, and most scholars agree that Jesus' audience was a peasant audience, that they were like at the level of almost slavery, a slave certainly to poverty. And so probably what he was observing is every day people would get up and they would get in the same mindset. I can't get ahead in life. I'm just a poor fisherman. And I think I told you last week, he was born into the household of a poor carpenter, according to the story. So he should have been a carpenter. He shouldn't have thought beyond that, because you're not really supposed to think beyond what you inherit from your father in that particular culture. But he did. And he got into a profession that was totally different from what a carpenter would be. And I know this from firsthand experience because I used to be a carpenter myself. And I got into the ministry, and it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different relationship with people, and the whole thing about it is different. So that I relate to Jesus in a lot of ways in that on a very material level, because I know what it is to get out and build things and, be out there in the sun and do all the stuff and feel like I don't want to be out here doing this. So he was probably observing this in people and was saying, there's a way you can start tapping into a different way of thinking about yourself and about your life, that you are not a slave to your life. You're not a slave to your upbringing. You may still continue to work in the profession that you're in, but there's a way you can do it that is a much freer approach. You can be conscious, be mindful of what you're doing. You can not think so much about, I wish I was not here anymore in this thing, and start trying to fall in love with your life just as it is. And that is very possible. He was not ignoring this or casting any blame, neither was he giving them false hope, telling them how to think and grow rich. He was telling them that a change of mind would stimulate a change in the choices of attitudes that each person carried. The Zen thing about chop wood, carry water, that the Zen, the one who adopted that philosophy, said you'll still do the same thing. You'll still have to chop wood and still have to carry water, but do it mindfully. Do it in a way where you're saying, you're giving thanks that you have wood to chop or you have water to carry, and just give thanks for the ability to do those things, to put yourself in it. When you're in a situation that you don't like, you become a taker. I don't want to be here. So you shut yourself off to that situation, and you really can't have an experience beyond what you're perceiving in that moment. But to be a giver would be to open yourself up to maybe passing on a compliment, or just looking around and saying, everybody here's come from someplace and they all have a story. That's what I was thinking. So it's a way of giving. When you're there not liking or not wanting to be where you are, you're withholding, and you start giving. You start giving yourself, I do love this place. I do want to be here. I will give all I have to give while I'm here. And that changes the whole perspective. So Jesus is saying, when you're out there fishing, instead of saying, I wish I was somewhere else, or out there plowing, I wish I was somewhere else, begin to enjoy the experience of giving yourself to that experience. Or maybe somebody needs help and you go over and help them, or whatever opportunities come up, you don't know. But that, to me, is what he was talking about, tapping into this kingdom. It's this ability in us to experience more than we think we should be able to in any given situation. It's a higher reaction than the one we think we're locked into. I have to react this way because it's a bad situation. Well, if you redefine that and redefine yourself, basically, there's another way. And so that, to me, is what he's talking about. He was telling them that a new freedom could be theirs if they learned to pay attention to the mental and emotional video that ran through their heads all day. Every challenge stirred opportunities to discover the self-defeating beliefs under which they labored, to cast these out and start anew. A simple change of consciousness could mean a substantial change in life. So when he talked about to the Jews, he said, if you sin, you're a slave to sin. What's that mean? It means I can't do anything in myself about this situation. I have to respond as the situation dictates. So we become a slave to that particular sin, which means we're missing the mark, we're falling short. Very simple idea. So many scholars say Jesus was an apocalyptic prophet. He was looking for a kingdom to come. I don't think he was. I think he said, it's here, and here's how to tap into it. Begin to look at what's going on in your mind. And this is what it means to change consciousness. Thank you for watching this week's program. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. We want to reach as many people as we can, and we appreciate your help. We have many subjects in our video lineup, so feel free to take a look. If there's a topic you don't see and would like me to address, just put it in the comment section. I'd love to know what's on your mind. To subscribe to this channel, simply click our logo. Thanks again for your interest in independent unity, and have a wonderful week.